And welcome everyone to the Spoilercast for Gen V, or is it the boys Gen V? I don't know. I can't remember.
Gen
But
V, a boy's story.
there you go. There you go. So it's the worst of the series then.
G1,
Oh,
Rogue V,
no.
V, a Star Wars story.
Oh. This is
Which one are you saying is the worst one? Because we're gonna have to fight.
I mean, we always fight. That's kind of
I know.
you decided that was going to be the thing.
I didn't choose that. Your bad takes chose that.
Really? I mean, I'm not the one out here caping for an endorsement suit.
Listen, it's cool. It's not my fault that Adidas made it.
How much have they paid you for that?
Listen, nothing.
If it's anything below zero, then you messed up.
I mean, they didn't charge me for it.
Oh, that's messed up.
But no, Rogue One, kind of mid. Solo, god tier.
I agree.
Anyway,
No, Solo's mid.
Solo's amazing. Solo's amazing, and the parts of Rogue One that I like, I love. Parts of Rogue One I like that I love.
I wish I liked Rogue One, but I had that really bad. It's like the worst case of sequel or prequelitis. They didn't do anything to make me care about anyone, and then it ended in the exact way it had to end. It's just like, oh, okay, that was a movie. No.
That's something that could be unpacked in its like own podcast. That the way I think that the predetermined fate of all of those characters kind of is one of the things that works the best for me, honestly. But
I don't think it's a badly made movie.
Oh no,
it's just purely. If I can't get attached, then I'm not in your movie, and
yeah.
I don't care.
Listen, I can't think about The Boys and not think about Rogue One because of the funniest joke in this whole show. Like that season 3 bit where the hack director and Ashley are hooking up.
Oh,
and she's like, Tony Gilroy had to come in and remake your whole damn movie. Listen, Gen V or Boys, that whole apparatus rarely is like making jokes for Star Wars people because it's not like it's not the material like on the docket. But that single joke, I don't think I've laughed harder at any of these shows than like how specific and laser focused that joke was. Because they could have just said Joss Whedon. They could have just said Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
You know,
and also on the surface of it, if you don't really, if you're not that paying attention, it is a Joss Whedon joke.
Yeah, like they could have really hammered home the way that like Dawn of the Seven was like poking fun at Dawn of Justice. You know, like they could have leaned into, oh, who do you get to replace Zack Snyder, Joss Whedon? They could have done that, but instead they went for the Rogue One joke, which was infinitely funnier, and I guess it's still the funniest joke in all of The Boys. I will never, ever, ever not laugh my ass off at that.
It's good stuff. But yeah, I'm Mitch. As always, you can follow me in the socials, in the link tree or wherever. And joining me this week, obviously, it's the Spoilercast, is Jared from the Nerd Academy podcast.
Hey guys, real quick plug up top. Assuming everything goes according to plans, Ionized Bastards season 2 starts this month.
Oh,
so subscribe to the All Remaining Systems YouTube channel, turn on the notifications, and watch Ionized Bastards season 1 if you haven't yet. It's a Star Wars real play RPG show. I play a dark Jedi with a checkered past and some.
I'm shocked.
What's that supposed to mean?
It's your literal handle and everything. It's on the screen right now.
Yeah, but I'm so gun shy about talking about Star Wars publicly at this point because every time I say something I like, I have Alden Diaz telling me that I'm an edgelord. Like I made the mistake of telling Alden about us building Faben Mark II because we're changing game systems going into season 2. Because originally we used the Fantasy Flight, like Force and Destiny, Edge of the Empire system, which was fun, but it does not make for a good RPG show. And all of us are so much more intimately familiar with Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition that Michael and I pitched Michael on it, and he was like, yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, that we're changing to Star Wars 5e, which is a bunch of people took Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition and reskinned it for Star Wars stuff.
Okay.
So we're switching to that. So it's just going to be like a D20 system this time around. But we had to like remake all of our characters in the new system for season 2. And whenever we got to do the force power selection process, I got to pick like 13 because we're starting at level 6 because we already did a whole campaign. And I knew, you know, Michael, I can't overindulge, and I know that Michael gives me a lot of slack when it comes to character creation. So I can't go way too over the top. But there were 3 powers that I was told a hard no on. And
nice.
I mentioned that in confidence, and now Alden keeps saying that I was asking for like Force Storm and Dominate Mind and Force Insanity, and I was like, I wanted Shatterpoint and Kinetite. Leave me alone.
Oh, bless you.
I know. I'm constantly being bullied, and if you guys want to make me feel better,
I think you bring it on yourself most of the time, to be honest.
Wow. But yeah, if you want to make me feel
Blame
better,
the bullied. It's always their fault.
If you want to make me feel better about being bullied by Mitch too now,
it's 692.
All remaining systems. That was funny. Go to all remaining systems and watch Ionized Bastards seasons 1 and soon 2.
I need to catch up on season 1. I started it, I liked it, and then I just completely dropped off because I think I started One Piece around the same time. And
Ionized Bastards is the One Piece of Star Wars.
Well, that's setting a high bar.
I know.
Well, it's just one of the greatest stories ever told. Oh, okay, cool. That's it.
The highest praise Ionized Bastards has ever gotten was from Eli from Star Wars in a Galaxy and the guy who runs Epic Confrontations. Is that every time he talks about it as being like an unofficial chapter in the Mandoverse.
Oh, bless him.
Because it takes place in the same, like it's like about like a year after like the official fall of the Empire. So like it's in the same time period. So he's always like, yeah, like this, you got to watch Ionized Bastards and then The Mandalorian and that, yeah. Anyway, Gen V. Sorry,
that's adorable. Yeah, Gen V. I came into this, and it's doing the show complete like disservice. I did not give a crap. I was like, boys spin-off, like really, we're here. It goes against everything the boys is like just generally stands for. Like, how are you gonna, franchise the parody of a franchise sort of thing?
That's interesting.
I was one of those people.
I was not. I know there were a lot of people saying that. For me, I've always, and you and I talked about this a little bit before we started, I don't necessarily view The Boys as parody of superhero media. I think it uses superhero media as a lens to perform a more wide-ranging cultural criticism.
I think you can be both.
But very often, yeah, like it is like a pastiche of like superhero tropes.
Especially like in season 1 where everyone's going on about costumes and this and that, and there's different.
Yeah.
Every time there's a costume change, it's like, yeah, this is it's the low hanging fruit, but it's definitely a superhero.
Yeah, and I do think that like as the show went on, that like the cultural criticism and the social commentary became more and more poignant and more potent.
Yeah,
and the decision to use the superhero kind of like toolbox became more the MO of the show to do that cultural criticism. I was excited for this show. I went in, I watched like the first trailer when it came out.
I watched nothing.
And I watched nothing after that. I went in not knowing what the hell was going on, even in the slightest. And I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did.
Same.
I do think that I'm a little, and I want to let this show cook, especially with The Boys season 4 on the horizon. But I have mixed feelings about the way they're taking the soup metaphor. Like I'm not quite sure what they're going for right now. It's a little confusing. I think the metaphor has gotten a little muddied by Gen V, and some decisions they make. But on the whole, again, I love it. I do love the social commentary. I love the way that the show in many ways leans into this idea of, we have queer heroes, we have heroes of color, and, despite the fact that like it is queer folk and people of color who are doing all of the heavy lifting, it is constantly and consistently the, white heroes in air quotes who are being lauded as the people who are actually saving the day, even when they are nowhere near as sure a bet as the heroes who are actually doing things. Like they chose Sam over Marie. One of whom is a loose cannon who will hallucinate a puppet to massacre a squadron of feds, and the other one
Not
is
just a massacre. There's other times he saw a puppet.
Yeah.
Which might have been the funniest moment I think The Boys has ever done. But...
I mean, listen, it's no Tony Gilroy, but it
isn't, no, but it's
but no. So I did love that a lot. I love these characters so much. I really got attached to these folks real quick, and I think I think what was really fun is that you're seeing, it's kind of like the same way that Starlight is so human, that you get to see somebody who is just bright-eyed and so willing to be a force for positivity and to just do the right thing on almost a pathological level. And you see them trying to fit that moral square peg in the like circular moral void that is Vought. And
just watch them get ground down.
And you watch them get ground down, and you see that with Marie, and you see this cynicism, and that's juxtaposed with like the cynicism of, Kate and Andre and Jordan to an extent. That they all kind of are like, they're somewhere in between there, and we don't normally get a lot of somebody who's in between like Starlight and Queen Maeve. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
Like normally it's, oh, I've been in or around the system long enough to know that it's all horse shit. Sorry. And that you can't take any of this seriously. And this is all just a farce. And then you have the people who are like new to the scene and they're like, yeah, I'm a superhero. But you have those people in the middle who have not quite fully been marred by the cynicism, but also like do believe they can affect positive change. And again, I think it's something that a lot of people sell The Boys short of, is how optimistic this show is and how optimistic this franchise is. That like a lot of the time, like the thesis statement is not everything sucks, so blow it up. A lot of the time it's everything sucks, but like you have a duty to make it better if you can. And the people who are using that power that could make things better, who are choosing to be a part of the system because it's easy and it's a gateway to influence, those are the true villains. And you see that some people are like victims of circumstance, and like, they start as somebody who's getting kicked down by the system, like Ashley, to the point where like she's one of the chief villains now. You know, like
yeah.
she, like,
Yeah.
you know,
That was a hard turn as well. That kind of not came out
oh
of nowhere, but it's even so that was
yeah,
that was crazy
but
twist.
yeah, and you see that it's very, hurt people, and you see that the way that it is that being in this system has like permanently damaged Ashley's soul to the point where she has crossed a Rubicon where like any blood that's on Homelander's hands is on hers as well.
Yeah.
She's fully complicit in the woods. Ashley in season 1, maybe even season 2 of The Boys, found out about the woods. She would have had a stroke. I
Yeah.
truly,
Yeah.
I don't think she'd even be able to compute it, let alone how just vile an institution like that is. Then I get here and she's just, it's the woods, man.
Yeah.
Get over it.
It's another day
It's,
at Vault.
it's another day at Vought.
This is
Another
what we
day
do
at
here.
Vought.
No, that whole woods thing's messed up, man. That
Oh
is
my god. It's so deeply disturbing. But
she's saying something for something, in the boys, in this world, in the universe. Like just how I don't. Part of me doesn't understand how they can actually just keep finding different ways to be as like grotesque and messed up as something like that.
well, I think it's I hesitate to say the beauty of it, but like the genius of the woods and how deeply messed up it is. I think is rooted in the we're so used to like how does the boys show violence? How does the boys depict cruelty?
Mm.
And a lot of the time it is by way of like some type of super powered heinous act. And what the woods shows us is something that is deeply human. It is so rooted in things that we do to people in the real world. And I love that despite the fact that I could name you 13 things off the top of my head that like are more visceral and disgusting visually than the woods. But I'd be hard pressed to name you something that is more psychologically disturbing as a concept. Like the idea of, this school was established to harvest data from children, to use them as guinea pigs, and then to abduct them so that we can play test a weapon of mass murder on them. And it's just so casual in its cruelty. It's a lot of the boys, and again, it's something that I think is fascinating, that in a world full of super powered beings, it would be really easy for every bad guy to be a capital S capital V super villain. When a lot of the driving negativity in the boys is the banality of evil. It is the way that capitalism just kind of like by default invites cruelty. And that for every time Homelander or Stormfront do something just objectively heinous and ideologically vile, you have Vought that's like, we're not going to do anything until it starts to affect our shares, because we're motivated by profit. And if the profit is in doing good things, we'll do good things. And if the profit is in torturing teenagers and 20 somethings to test the super plague on, whatever pays the bills. It's very, very effective. And it's incredible. It is so good. And the way that this show, I have, like I said, I have very few like gripes with it. Like I said, one of them is that I am still confused as to what the metaphor is with the soup stuff. But I do like the way that they took the opportunity to explore issues directly affecting younger people and then put it through the boys' prism. You know, like
Yeah.
like there's a lot of exploration of masculinity and, you know, like young men's masculinity and how that manifests and how that can be a very destructive how the toxic forms of that masculinity are incredibly self-destructive and are known to just destroy people. And, you know, you see that with Golden Boy, you see that with Sam. You know, there's a uh there's gender and queer elements with Jordan's character. You know, like I love that they call attention to it. It's like, why do you turn into a dude every time you want to make a point? You know,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
like
That's one of my
that.
favorite. Like, that's what really grabbed me, just to jump in there. Like that first episode, the one thing I noticed was every power set you can make a link to some kind of like teenage issue, whether it be like body, gender, sexuality, like mental health, like whatever. You can all link it to that,
Yeah,
and that just like really stood out for me. And I was like, you know what? That's actually genuinely a smart idea. I appreciate that.
it really is. It really is. You know, like I obviously, you know, Marie's is kind of like, you know, a lesser show I don't think would have been able to make Marie as complicated as she is, metaphorically,
No.
because when you lead with "I got my period and it killed my childhood,"
Yeah.
you could have just kind of stuck your claim there. But then on top of that, they make the choice for her to also be this analog for, like, you know, people of color have to punch, kick, scratch, claw their way 1,000 times harder than your average white dude. You know, like you have to go above and beyond to be considered next to this guy, even though you've already exceeded them.
Yeah.
You know, especially the way that Brink, you know, which I was surprised there was so little Clancy Brown. I was stunned by that.
Yeah, that was.
Because
I suppose that's
like I said, I didn't follow any of like the promotion or anything leading up to this. I
no.
was just like, okay, cool, more boys. And but I knew Clancy Brown was in it, and I knew that was kind of a selling point. Like, hey, Clancy Brown's here, and I was like, hey, Clancy Brown, and I'm like, oh, Clancy
By Clancy
Crispy,
Brown.
Clancy Crispy Brown. But yeah, but with Brink, you know, just going like, hey, like, you know, being a hero, and it's that Vought moral postulating of like, oh yeah, like, hey, you got to be the hero and sacrifice things, and I can't sacrifice White Golden Boy over here, but since you're the only one who stepped up, you know, the Nepo baby, my personal assistant, and then the two white kids, yeah, they're not going to be affected by this. You are. Sorry. It's heinous, you know, and so they string a very fascinating web of, you know, Marie grappling with the very visceral nature of her powers, and how it affects her self-image, which was brilliant, but while also bringing in like a very poignant racial commentary, which I loved. And like I said, with Sam and Luke, you get the you know, exploration of masculinity. You know, I think that I totally bought Kate's full turn to the dark side, you know, and
Yeah.
I, you know, and same with Sam, you know, like it's part of why, and to explain what I keep saying about like the metaphor, the idea of Homelander becoming the face of this like superhuman supremacy movement worked
Yeah.
so well for me, that it is about exerting power and exerting the status quo onto people, and that more often than not, one of my favorite Brennan Lee Mulligan quotes of all time is he was talking about how personality predates ideology. So that before you were a fascist, you were a bully and an a-hole. And I love that quote, and you can extrapolate that on a Homelander, right? That before he was he was involved with like supremacist movements, and before he was really cared at all about the idea of like some type of Ubermensch, not to be too on the nose here. He was an egomaniac.
Yeah.
You know, he's a broken man who the only thing he has is his self-image and his like idea of free will and what he can do with it and how he can exert his will onto people.
Yeah.
And I loved that. And I love seeing that the people who are rallying behind him, it's this mix of all of like the Star-Spangled propaganda and just American fascist imperialism that's baked into his image and his very being. But when then you get into this weird wrinkle of the government wants legislation to regulate superhuman activity.
Yeah.
And I think things get a little complicated there with what they're trying to get at. Because you need to be careful, because I don't want the boys to accidentally imply that Homelander's more like Magneto. You know? That like
that's an interesting point, yeah.
Because you know, with Magneto, his whole thing is like, well, mutant kind is the future. Mutant kind is how humanity is destined to evolve. But he is also the victim of the friggin' Holocaust.
Yeah.
You know? So like, and that colors him, that has radicalized him. And so much of his ideology is to protect mutant kind from genocide. And I think you run into an issue where if you depict the government that is so deeply in bed with Vought, as trying to persecute superhuman society, you run the risk of accidentally making Homelander have a point. And you run the risk of giving him the veneer of a Magneto. And because so much of the show is rooted in, you know, motif and cliche and trope, the militant super being who's trying to protect his people, that very idea getting extrapolated on a Homelander gets messy. And then it gets extra messy when you have what is clearly the MAGA stand-ins, you know, down to that Rufus kid wearing a red hat. Like, you know, like he's wearing a Homelander MAGA hat.
Yeah.
That like he and all of the people who clearly ideologically align with him are chanting "Soup Lives Matter." Now, I think that there is a level of they are not doing Black Lives Matter, they're doing White Lives Matter.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's obvious. But using that verbiage alone,
it's
a little murky.
One.
It's a little murky, and it becomes harder to square because you have them. I think because I think they put a hat on a hat. I think Soup Lives Matter should not have made it past the first draft, and the I can't remember what Rufus starts chanting, but it's very clearly like a play on the Charlottesville Jews will not replace us.
Oh, yeah, God, I remember that.
You won't replace us. I think it might just say you won't replace us. It's something to that effect.
I think it is, yeah.
But like that again, you have maintained an ideological consistency with this movement. And when you start introducing this idea that the government is considering some type of like persecution of the superpowered community, it starts to get really murky and really confusing, especially when you consider the fact that like you have someone like Newman, who is, you know, the face of what people are calling this, you know, like this anti-superhuman, anti-American, whatever, that she is, you know, on Team Vought with the whole, we need a superhuman plague, but Vought owns the superhumans. And, you know, so like, it's just, it's a little muddy. It's a little muddy. And I fear that it might, the muddiness might eclipse how poignant the Homelander like arc of radicalization has been.
Yeah.
And
I'm not entirely sure if I was just gonna say I'm not entirely sure if I am worried about that, because it's a fantastic point, to be honest. But I think I'm just trying to think how to put it, because you can make the argument that no matter what they do, it's going to get muddied regardless, right? You look at, is it season 3 of The Boys, the last one?
Yes.
I forget how many seasons we're on. So season 3, like the whole MAGA ending with Homelanding there, people misconstrued it anyway. The whole season 1 thing with, you know, as the show slowly evolved and revealed everything, you know, you had people saying The Boys is woke and all this and that, because of course everything you see is woke in it. But people are always going to miss the point regardless.
Oh, sure.
I think I trust the show enough to make its point known, regardless of what, like how. The show's muddy in general, right?
I accepted the fact that people were going to miss the point the day I saw people call Homelander an anti-hero.
Yeah.
You know, I accepted the fact that people were going to miss the point when people were saying, well, The Boys criticizes the left and the right equally. And it's like, no, really doesn't.
No.
It really doesn't. A lot of what The Boys has to say is that, you know, modern conservatism and fascism are way closer to each other than people want to admit. And the way, and getting from point A to point B is a lot easier than you want to pretend that it is. And that, you know, neoliberal capitalism is an enabler of that. And that, you know, that you can talk as much game about inclusion and diversity as you want to. What matters at the end of the day is you're not going to stand by those principles when the rubber meets the road. You know, like that, like that is it's not criticizing the left, because that isn't the left, you know, like no. But that also speaks to like a political illiteracy of the world, you know, that like that you can say, you know, that somebody can with a straight face call Joe Biden a communist and like not catch on fire, you know, like that level of just, we're saying words and that's all we're doing politically. That like I accepted the fact that people aren't going to get it. I'm saying I am afraid of The Boys falling into a metaphor so convoluted that it loses its own plot and that it loses the rhythm it's had. That like that because like what. Because at what point does the government start treating soups like the mutants in the Marvel continuity? You know what I mean? Like, because it seems like that is a fear that is on the table. Now, again, that is.
I'll say it's already there. That's the whole point of the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, but I mean, like when the legislation comes down, inevitably.
Yeah,
you know, like
I put money on season 4 of The Boys.
Yeah, when Victoria Newman becomes the president.
Yeah,
because duh.
It's the comment.
When that happens, you know, when does it turn into like they're sincerely treating them like mutants? You know, like when does the superpowered community actually become the target of bigotry? And what happens then? Do all of the people who are actually being persecuted all become fascists? You know, how is it going to be framed by Newman? How is it going to be framed by Vought? I'm not saying that they can't stick the landing with this idea.
Yeah.
Like I said, I want to let
It's
them
just
cook.
a tricky one to stick the landing on.
I don't know how I would land that plane.
Yeah.
And I think that because so much of it is being framed as, Victoria Newman wants to exert some type of tyrannical control over Supes, that like you have to be careful with how you characterize what legislation comes next. And it's already been and the ability to undermine the Homelander position has already been taken away because Newman takes that plague and kills the guy for it.
Yeah.
And again, that's the question. Is she doing this for Vought? Is she doing this for Sam Edgar? Is she doing this because she wants to do this? She's a Soup. So, like, she has to have her own interests somewhere because, this plague will kill her too.
Yeah. Well. I don't know. I'm with you. I have no idea how the hell you'd land something like that.
But again, I have all the faith in him. I have all the faith in him.
Same.
I don't know how you do it, but they've created a very interesting conundrum.
Because it's one I don't know. Completely going off. If this is actually part of the comic, The Boys, I think Godolkin's in The Boys, but I don't think it was an idea that was ever really explored. I've only read part of The Boys, right? And I was like, you know what, this is genuinely bad.
That's the thing. I've never touched The Boys, and whenever Travis was like hyping me up for it, he kept telling me, "Don't read these comics. Don't."
Yeah, don't. No.
He was like, "If you read the comics, you will not want to watch the show." And then season 1 came out. I was like, "This is incredible." I was like, "This might be one of my favorite shows of all time already." And then he was like, "Yeah, you definitely don't want to read the comics if you want to keep liking this."
No.
Yeah.
It's such a weird reflection of itself because the comic might actually be one of the worst things ever written. It's just horrendous for the sake of being horrendous. There's nothing poking fun. It's not a satire. It's just genuine. Like, it's being genuine.
Yeah,
and it just feels bad. Where the show, God bless Seth Rogen and everyone working on this show. They took something like that and made it presentable.
Yeah, they made it poignant. They made it actually say something.
Yeah,
which is impressive given what I know about the source material.
Yeah, because that's every time I watch something with The Boys, I always get just a little flashback of the book, and I'm like, yeah, that's that's where this show came from. But no,
yeah,
I was genuinely impressed with this season.
Oh my god, same. Like I said, I was like, hey, I'm gonna watch it because I love The Boys, and I need my Vought verse fix. I'm missing it. I was super impressed. Like I said, it's very complicated in terms of like what it believes and what it has to say. We were getting into it earlier, but just the way that barring some of the dialogue that you can tell it's people in their 30s and 40s writing people in their early 20s, and
yeah.
I just every time it's hello fellow teens, and
every generation has it. What happened to you?
I know, and I know we'll do it. I know we'll do it to these youngins that are coming up right now with their iPads and stuff. But that was one thing that consistently took me out.
Yeah.
But
you'll hit an age where you're used to it and you're numb to it, and it'll water off a duck's back.
Right? Well, but it won me back with what it had to say. It said it in a corny, people don't talk like this way from time to time, but what it was getting at, I think, was very poignant. I think one of the standout moments for me was whenever I'm losing her name, Shrinking Girl.
Oh,
it's not Emma, is it? That doesn't sound right. It's something like Emma.
I was gonna say Emily.
It's something in that ballpark. But when the one
It is
vlogger,
Emma Mayer.
I was right.
Yeah.
Whenever Emma like reveals how her powers work to that one girl who's supposed to be her scene partner, that the way that she exposes that, and she's like, "How dare you?" and that again, it is the performance of activism, you know, where it's like if you want your liberal criticism here, this is where it's at. It's in things like this where it's like, oh well, I wanted to give you a platform. I felt like your story should be told. It's like you had no right to.
Yeah.
You had zero leg to stand on to take my story and use it for your own personal gain. You know, it is like stuff like that where you have people who are like, you know, activism by way of clout chasing. It is something that, you know, I'm not gonna get too real here and, you know, spill tea or anything, but like I have seen so much of that in the last year that like that has profoundly frustrated me and made me deeply angry. That like that moment of, well, I just wanted to give you a platform. You know, that pithy, like, yeah, I know I got all the attention and the views and the clicks and everybody was looking at me, but it was all for you.
Yeah.
Man, when Jordan faded that chick, I was like, yeah, hit her again. Oh, and that's another thing. I love Jordan. Oh my!
Oh, Jordan's fantastic.
God.
Now, there's one thing with Jordan.
So cool that their power set changes depending on how they are presenting. That is so cool. The way that it's like, and I was trying to explain Jordan's power set to my girlfriend. I was like, when they're presenting male, they have just kind of like stock standard super strength.
Yeah.
When they're presenting female, it's like Sue Storm style force fields, but like telekinetic. That was the only way.
Sue Storm is telekinetic.
Well, I know, but I mean, like, you don't ever see. I mean, I can't think of off the top of my head. Like, whenever Sue's like doing like the energy, like field stuff, it's normally like manifesting as a barrier, or she's casting it around people, or she's using it on herself. I can't think of a time where I see her use it as a like ranged blast. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna go out on a limb.
I'm sure it's happened, but like it's just.
I know. I was just gonna say the 1610 version, no doubt, has something like that.
Well, let's say off the top of my head, like when I think of Sue Storm's power set, I never think of it being used.
It's defensive. It's not offensive.
Yeah, I never think of it as like an offensive attack where like she is blasting somebody back with it. I guess she kind of does that in the movie, but like still, like the way it's depicted with Jordan is just so cool.
Yeah. Now, Jordan only had two, right? There's only the male and the female.
Yeah,
because there was a point. It was when they're at the gala, or whatever. I can't remember what. When they first find out about the woods.
Yeah.
Or was it when Emma goes to save Sam and all that?
Yeah.
I need to go back and watch it, and even though I'm certain my brain's just tricking me on it, that she turned into a third person, and it bugged me for ages. Because I'm certain there's a point where she didn't look, or they didn't look like anyone they'd shown before, and it really took you back, and it never happened again. And I could never figure out without watching it.
I can't think of that happening, but it's also been a hot minute since that episode.
Yeah, because they were a male, but it wasn't the male that you've seen before. And I honestly couldn't. I should have gone back and actually watched it again to save myself looking like an idiot, and I am. But I could never pinpoint it down. And I was just, for the rest of this show, I'm just literally sitting there watching waiting for them
like
to do the third one.
Third gear Jordan.
Yeah. Third gear. Oh my god. Now I watch One Piece again.
I didn't even mean that as a One Piece joke. I meant that, like, you know, you have dude Jordan, lady Jordan, and then a third different, more badass. That has become one of my favorite memes that I quote all the time. It's like, not good but bad, not good or bad, but a third, more badass option.
What is that from?
I don't know. I've just seen it on Twitter and I laugh at it every time. I'm 90% certain. It gives Gray Jedi and it makes me laugh every time.
Oh, that's such a young person phrase. You said that unironically.
Yeah. Mitch, I'm in my 20s. What did you expect? I actually speak the way they were trying to write these characters.
I think it's just that's the first time I've legitimately ever heard someone say it.
I say it all the time.
Like outside of like a show or Twitter.
Like it's giving blank.
Or a TikTok, like taking the piss out of it. Like it's generally the first time.
I don't even remember the context. I got into a joke. It was just this like we were all just like doing punch up on this one joke. It was something to do with like somebody making an obvious observation, and it was like it's like Batman holding a green question mark and going, "I think it was the Riddler." I don't remember the context of that joke being made, and then we just kept like doing more examples of like, you know, like, oh hey, this dead guy has a smile etched into his face. I think it was the Joker. And we just kept going and going, and then Michael McCoy, the DM of Ionized Bastards, just like there was a silence that came down, and he just went, "It's giving a hush," and I was like,
oh, that's funny.
Just that sentence of "it's giving a hush," I was like, that is one of the funniest things you've ever said. But,
that's fantastic.
I know. I need hush in a Batman movie like pronto, just so we can all start saying that with context. It's giving.
Wasn't there a thing that the Batman Part 2's got hush in it?
It's on the table because I know it's one of the. It's like Hush and Court of Owls are the ones that Pattinson really wants.
Yeah. So I'm certain. I might have just completely dreamt it and made it up that something came out recently. Or not that recently, because strikes. And all that. But
like recently,
in the before
times.
Given,
recently given the last 110 days.
Yeah. Well, 160 in it, because the WGA strike was 150. Well, 149. Sorry, I've got to be exact.
I don't remember because I know most of those days overlapped. But either way, pay your actors.
Yes, that goes for movie and video game studios. Don't be dumb.
I cannot believe that this is really going to come down to like, hey, can we zombify you for eternity?
We know your dad's been dead for 30 years. We want to use him.
Like,
here's $50.
The thing that is so mind-boggling to me about this whole issue is that, like, the studios are just so publicly insistent on doing the most ghoulish thing possible.
There'd literally be that meme where it's how could they do this so after the guys just shot the person?
Yeah, like it is like where if you want to introduce that clause into contracts of like, hey, if you sign this, you know, we would like to be able to use your likeness and things. It's like, okay, we can play ball with that. There needs to be adequate compensation, and if the person is deceased, you need explicit permission from estates and such. That is such a reasonable counter to that.
I was gonna say it's the bare minimum, right? Like
it is like it's like what I've always talked about when people talk about, you know, like, oh, like if Luke and Leia are gonna be involved in like Mandoverse Grogu saga type stuff. Like, how do you do it? Like, if Luke is going to be more involved, do you just recast Luke? Do you just recast Leia? Do you just recast Han? And like, I can go either way. If you get people's permission and people sign off on that, I don't have a problem with it. It's why I don't give a damn about Luke and Mando and Boba Fett. Like Mark Hamill's still alive, which like that's a different conversation to be had completely.
Yeah.
B, Mark Hamill is on set filming some of those scenes and directing the ones he's not filming. So like when people try to like, oh, and like the Luke Skywalker stuff, this is the pathway to why the studios want to do this. It's like, no, the Luke Skywalker stuff is the best version of this.
Yeah,
Mark is an
as sad as it is. Yeah, it's true.
Of bringing this performance to life, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's awesome. I love it. I love when Luke Skywalker shows up in The Mandalorian and stuff because I know Mark is helping like do something that like would never be possible before. That is incredible. Different conversation if Leia shows up and no one in the Fisher estate has talked to you about it. That Billy Lord isn't involved in it.
Yeah.
That is a different bag of cats completely. And I also, just while I'm on the topic and just talking smack about Star Wars stuff before we get back to Gen V, I think it's hilarious that all of the people who love to thump their chest about how quote unquote robot Luke is inherently bad love Andor and love Rogue One, and they straight up brought a guy back from the dead in Rogue One.
Wasn't his son involved in that?
I not to my knowledge, I don't think it was Cushing's son.
I thought, or not a family member. I'm certain when that was coming out, when Rogue One was being done, or Star Trek came out, there was a thing about one of the relatives being involved.
With the
I thought the guy, the actual person who played the mocap for Tarkin was related to. I can't think of his name. Who played Tarkin
in the original?
Yeah,
Peter Cushing.
That's the one. Yeah. I'm certain it was a relative of like a grandson or nephew or something like that.
No, it was a guy named Guy Henry.
Okay.
Who looks like Peter Cushing. I wouldn't mind Guy Henry playing a young Grand Moff Tarkin at some point, actually. He really has the look.
Maybe that's what I got it from. He just looks like him. I just assumed. This is why you should read stuff. No, I could tell you that one of the hallways in Rogue One was shot in Canary Wharf, but...
I did know that.
Yeah.
I
know that because my mother at the time worked in Canary Wharf, and I don't think she saw it being filmed, but she knew a bit of it. No, she saw them setting up or something. It was something like that. It's just cool.
What part was shot in Canary Wharf? Do you know? I know that part of it was. I just don't remember what.
There's a shot of stormtroopers running.
Oh, it was like whenever they're like going onto the beachfront on Scarif.
I think so.
It
was in the trailer, and I know exactly where it was in the trailer. It's like Canary Wharf, like the actual train station. I can't remember which bit exactly it was, but I just remember it's stormtroopers running down like stairs or something to that. It's not like exactly Canary Wharf, but it is. But they've like moved stuff around, obviously.
Yeah, it would probably either be like Scarif or whenever that rebel ambush happens on Iriadu when Galen Erso dies. But
I can't remember. If I saw it, I could be like, yes, that is that exact shot. But yeah,
because I'm gonna watch Rogue One later now.
That's unfortunate.
Nah, man, listen.
Look, Rogue One's the gateway to Andor, and that's bad.
You know, I've been trying to get you on air with the people who were flaming you in the group chat for weeks now. Michael was supposed
be...
to be on the Spider-Man review, and when I was trying to get you on to talk about the Variety article, I was already going to have Alden on there because I wanted to lock you guys in a room together.
That's just mean. That's some vault crap right there. That's heinous.
No one can see it. I did the Homelander finger wag.
I was just gonna say, for audio listeners, because everyone's got an audio listener.
Yeah, I know. I always forget that there isn't a video here, but
as Jared said earlier, I just got fingered.
Christ. But yeah, no. This show is great, and let me tell you.
Have they announced the second season? I can't remember. Yeah. They have. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good.
The way this episode ends, because it felt like it had more to go while all hell was breaking loose on campus.
Yeah.
Like during the fight. And then when Homelander arrived, I was like, oh no, is this episode about to end? Like, yes, I sincerely was like, oh, we got to have like a good 10-15 minutes left. And then Homelander shows up and then he starts doing his what kind of animal are you? And I was like, oh, and I just pressed pause to see how much was left because I needed to mentally prepare myself. And I try not to do that. But I was
I've done that. It's just how much longer? Oh, we've got 5 minutes. No, please.
I know, and but it ends so the show. I try to be careful with the way I use the phrase "left me wanting more" because sometimes that can mean there wasn't enough meat on the bone, and then other times it can mean give me more now. And I very much mean give me more now. When I was this show left me wanting so much more. I immediately was like, all right,
I just want
when's season 2 coming out, baby? When's Boys season 4 coming out, baby? Come on, I need right now. Hit me.
I say this finish, and I was generally just like, why couldn't this be the penultimate one? Just one more, and I'll be fine. Don't leave it right there. Just
give me one episode with
even if it's a shorter one.
Clearly in Vought Tower.
Just give them clearly what?
They're clearly in Vought Tower.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. There's no way they're not. Whether it's the top or the bottom, who knows?
I'm really interested to see how they rehabilitate Sam's image, how they spin all of this, and I don't know. There's something really interesting about the fact that they had the gall to maim Kate like that. Because normally those types of over the top injuries, that happens to a jobber or someone who's immediately going to die anyway. So I'm curious to see how a character whose power is driven by physical touch to be having lost an arm.
This was my thing. I was wondering if they're going to do that. She loses the arm and they wake up and they're in wherever the hell, clearly Vought Tower, right? I was wondering if they were actually going to remember any of it. And if they're going to go the route of she hasn't physically got to touch someone, just a part of her has to be making contact, right? And a lot of parts were making contact. And if they're going to go that route and they don't remember anything because obviously they had the evolution of the powers, right, with the whole blood daggers. I wonder if they're going to do that with her because of the distress of losing an arm, and they just happened to do it, but they didn't. They still could, I suppose, but
but I'm very interested to see it. I think that I think Kate and I lost his name. I just said it and I went away.
Sam,
thank you. Kate and Sam, I'm very interested to see where their characters go, and again, it's the way
do
Sam
they put them on the 7. How many spots in the 7 we got open?
4. The only people left are Homelander, A-Train, and the Deep.
Oh yeah, yeah, those two. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Not the heavy hitters. You have
no.
You have
no, I wonder if they put those two on the 7. and they just do exactly what they did with I'm blanking on a name with the blood powers. Literally the main character of the show.
Oh, Marie.
I've forgotten. That's it, Marie. Yeah, I knew it began with them. Yeah, if they do something like how her arc at the start was being lifted up as the one that stopped Golden Boy.
Yeah.
Like if they do that with Sam and Kate. Because obviously they're looking for someone for the 7, right? At the end of this episode, on the finale.
Well, and I do think that like there's gonna be such a like morally complicated diversity of tactics because like I have a hard time imagining Butcher isn't like super into the suit plague.
Yeah.
But like no one else on that team is gonna let him do that.
No.
Like Huey, Starlight, Frenchie, Kimiko, no way they let that fly. At all.
This is a question for that, right? Does that affect people who are taking the human growth hormone?
The Temp V?
That's the one, Temp V. I completely blanked the name. I knew it had V in the name because but I couldn't remember the other thing. Like, does that affect people who are on that?
I don't think it will because it's not like because it flushes from the system within 24 hours. So I don't think it would
at the time. Like if you're on it at that point, does that affect you?
Oh, like if you are on Temp V, probably.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like if you've taken Temp V, will it affect you? I don't think so. But
well,
like,
I mean, if you have taken it, yeah, but
if you're actively,
like they are.
No, they're not anymore though.
I thought they were.
No, because they couldn't. Because that was the whole thing. Was that the Temp V was making them like dangerously sick. So Huey stopped taking it, and then Butcher took exactly enough to give him a brain tumor.
Of course he did, yeah. This is why I need to rewatch more things.
For the Homelander, Soldier Boy, Butcher Battle Royale.
Which really good use of Soldier Boy in this.
Oh, I love Soldier Boy so much.
I saw that was one of the only like promo things I saw for this show outside of posters.
I didn't know,
and I sat there and I groaned. I saw.
I had no clue he was going to be in it, and when he just like walks up, he's like, "What's up?" I was Jensen. Listen, Jensen Ackles' Soldier Boy is so fun.
Yeah,
of like a scumbag. That like the heightened version of him in Kate's mind, where Jensen just got to gnaw on the scenery like an unruly dog.
There's a timeline out. At least I like to think that there's a timeline out there where this whole superhero stuff in media, you know, DC did the thing. DC's the one that took off, and it was the MCU that did the dark and edgy thing. There's a timeline out there where it might have worked, where Jensen Ackles was Ultimate Cap, because he's Ultimate Cap here. He's literally just a 16. Like you can see him doing the whole "I'm not French" angle, which Chris Evans would never have been able to do.
Do you think this A stands for France?
Oh, iconic. But no, there's a timeline out there where that happened, and I can't lie, I wish I could see it.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
What, Jensen Ackles is a 16-10 cap?
Just Jensen Ackles is like a straight up Captain America, period. I think he could do it. I think he has the chops for it. I mean,
it's literally just Soldier Boy. Like the Soldier Boy is obviously he's just Cap, or he's the Cap that people be like, oh, he's from the 40s, he's racist. Like he probably is. But
the my blood's red, but not commie red. Red, white, and blue red. That I was cackling. I was so funny.
No, they used him really well, because I genuinely groaned when I saw they're bringing him in. I was like, how are you going to do that? He's, season 3. And then bam, it's just an imaginary friend, and it works.
I do think he'll be back though. I do think they'll like bring him out of cryo freeze again.
Probably. Probably. I can't see them.
I'd be so
casting
sad
him.
if they don't, because he
Yeah.
is one of the highlights of season 3.
I say give it a season.
Yeah, I love Soldier Boy.
Season 5 of The Boys. I'm fine with it.
I love Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy's one of those characters where it's like, man, I love you for all the right reasons, and I fear publicly saying that I love you because I don't want the wrong people to think we agree on anything. It's the same reason why, like, I'll be like, oh yeah, I love Homelander because he's a villain. Like, I love Homelander as the antagonist of this show.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
One day the people will be smart enough to make a distinction.
No, they
unfortunately.
won't. No, they won't. Never. I'm gonna be the pessimistic one on this one. I don't think
there's got to be some optimism somewhere.
And normally that's me.
You said it yourself. The Boys is optimistic. Like,
it's more optimistic than people give it credit for.
It really is, yeah.
Gen V, good. The Boy,
very good. Yeah. Boy, season 1 bad. Mid. No, I'll take bad back. It's mid. Season 1 was mid.
It's been so long. I got to revisit it. I just found
season 1 to be. It didn't have the footing yet. It was just more gratuitous. It's like, hey, look, here's the disgusting thing we can do next week. Tune in, find out.
I will say though, like I said, I need to revisit season 1. My girlfriend and I, whenever Boys season 4 is on the way, like, she has said that she will sit down and watch the first 3 seasons in Gen V with me.
Nice.
To get ready for it, and I'm so excited by that. But, like, let me tell you, there was one moment in season 1 that almost made me quit this show.
Yeah.
That I was too shaken by it that I was like, I don't know if I can keep watching this.
Yeah. And
it was the airplane. That's
not episode 1, wasn't it?
No, it's like 2 or 3, maybe 4. But, like, that moment affected me. And I was like, I am just so disgusted by the character I know is the villain. But, like, I don't know if I can keep watching this. Like, it upset me so much.
Which is funny, because that's one of the reasons why I carried on watching it.
Yeah, but like I said, and I say that because it was effective. Like, it did its job. I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing it, because I was just so, like, that little kid, like, it haunted me. I was like, I don't know if I can keep watching this show, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. But, like, that moment hit me so hard that I was like, I don't know if I can watch this anymore.
Yeah, I'm glad they found their footing, because we now get stuff like Gen V and they can branch out and do other stuff. Like, I don't want the Boys to be like the MCU or the DCU and just have 1,000 different connecting things. Like, right now, a main and a spin-off is enough for me.
You know, I don't know. I've always been of the mind of, if you have a story to tell and it's worth telling, tell it. You know,
I mean, sure, and that's the way I believe they're going with it. But it's just I don't want this to go on, like, to outstay its welcome, right? Like,
oh, for sure.
I think they said they've got, like, a plan for, like, 6 or 7 seasons of The Boys. I might be confusing Invincible, actually.
No. They said season 5 is going to be it.
Oh, is season 5 going to be it?
Yeah, it's season 4, and then 5 is going to be the end.
Oh wow!
The last I heard, that may have changed, but
yeah, like, I just don't want them to. It's not even overstaying your welcome, because I'd always welcome more Boys, but, like, don't ruin a good thing. All right, don't fall into the old, like, CW trap of, we have 23 episodes. How do we stretch this out?
Yeah.
Like, well, don't do that. Right.
I think The Boys could have been that if it was, like, whack a soup a week.
Yeah.
But it has been so focused that at this point, I don't think that could happen.
I also want Seth Rogen to move on to the next thing he wants to do.
Yeah.
Because Seth Rogen, unironically, out here carrying the superhero genre right now.
I mean, he's bringing the pain with this and Invincible, that's for sure.
Does he do Invincible?
I know he's in it.
Oh, it's true, yeah.
He's the alien guy.
I can't remember his name, and that hurts me, because Invincible's like the One Piece of comics. I say that wholeheartedly. And
I know you do. I could feel how much you said that with your chest, and I respect it.
Have you read Invincible?
I've not read it, no. And
Fix that.
I'm enjoying the show so much that like I don't want to spoil it for me.
That's totally fair.
That's the thing with like a lot of these like direct adaptation stories is that I've kind of gotten to a point where like, oh, like I never got around to reading this, but like I'm so invested in how the show is presenting it, I don't to like get ahead of it. You know,
no, that's
like,
totally fair.
Like I know Travis and Levi, like they read One Piece like hell, you know, but like I couldn't imagine getting so invested in the show and then like circumventing it for the source material. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like at that point, like I'm like I eventually I want to go back and then read Invincible.
Yeah. Invincible is.
I know it has its moments. I know it has its moments that are, but
there's one moment that I don't think aged particularly well. I think the show has the opportunity to really spin that on its head. I wouldn't be surprised if they cut it out. I wouldn't be surprised if they doubled down and went to do something really good with it. But that's a different conversation. And I do want to talk about Invincible at some point. I'll probably just wait until this season's over, like we did with Gen V. Because I just want to consume Invincible, and no, I don't want to talk about it. I want to just be a normal person with that show.
And I'll be here on time. Omni Jared will arrive.
I mean, I don't believe that, but
what do you mean?
No, I don't believe it.
That I'll come back for an Invincible review?
No, that you'll be on time.
Ha! That's fine.
You could prove me wrong.
I can. I'll have to push through my inevitable. Oh no, my stomach is killing me. The day I do a comic book cast review. Every time we talked about this right before we started. Everybody listening, that I have almost every single time Mitch has had me on for a spoiler cast, I have had to push it back by at least half an hour because right before I get a violent stomach situation that I'm like, you need to give me a minute.
Go poopy.
Yo, poopy. It's diabolical.
Yeah. I mean, you got your first chance to prove me wrong literally next week.
I do.
And then in a few weeks' time.
Yeah. I mean, Invincible's the one I have to prove you wrong on. I get to have belly issues one more time for Loki. Built into it. Extra credit if I don't, but
that's fair. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining. We will catch you all next time for Loki and Invincible. So thanks for coming on, Jared.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. The Nerd Academy podcast. We're 40 subscribers away from 500. Please subscribe and watch Ionized Bastards and Epic Confrontations.
Do it. So yeah. Bye-bye.